Chapter 1201, Double Cross. William never faced great storms even though he was a director of Harbo Group in China. Never once had he ever faced any event that made him feel so strange and terribly flustered like this one. What should I do? Countless thoughts swirled through his mind, but he found that there was nothing he could do. He couldn't even find the one responsible for the assassination so far, the one who gave them so much pain. After a long time, he then shouted, "Contact Old Wolf. He has been dormant in China for too long and it's time for him to wake up. Tell him that we must find Cal Solon no matter the cost, else all of us will be in for big trouble." Understood. The sturdy man replied respectfully. William sighed inwardly. He already spent 800 million yuan. If he failed to bring Cal Solon back to the US, it was very likely that this brat's father, that ruthless major stakeholder of Harbo Group, would butcher him. Bang. The sound of gunfire in the distance reached his ears. William's expression changed. He ran to the wall where the windows hadn't been installed yet and set his sight to the distant horizon. Within the distance that his eyes could see, a group of sturdy people was chasing several people. Along with the continuous sound of gunfire, some of the fleeing people fell to the ground. The same scene also happened to some people who pursued them. The chaser and the chased kept firing at each other and mutually claimed the lives from both sides. "It's Old Wolf, Director." The sturdy man nearby suddenly turned his head and cried out quickly. William trembled. As the two sides got closer, he could also see Old Wolf running while holding someone whose face he couldn't see clearly. "Let's catch up and support them." William pondered for a moment and immediately shouted. Suddenly, two figures dashed away downstairs with extremely fast movements like spirit apes. They kept grabbing the handrails of the stairs before jumping down, and quickly, they appeared on the first floor of the building. As Old Wolf was less than 300 meters away from them, the two men dashed toward him quickly under the shielding of a low bunker. "Who is it?" Old Wolf desperately ran as fast as he could while towing Cal Solon when he suddenly noticed that some people were hiding nearby, and immediately shouted. However, he immediately regretted his action after seeing the two big men hiding in the corner. It turned out that they were on the same side. His heart eased up a lot. He didn't wait for an answer and quickly rushed into the building. The 10 or so experts left beside him also dashed into the building and disappeared in a flash. At their rear, about less than 50 men with guns led by 2 men and a woman, bolted fast to the building quickly. They didn't immediately enter the building for fear of an ambush. Slash, slash, slash. Just as these 40-plus men scattered around, two figures suddenly appeared from hidden spots on both sides. In just a few seconds, 4 big men were grabbed from behind and a hand covered their mouths while sharp daggers flashed to tear their throats and pierce their hearts. The killing of these 4 people didn't even alarm anyone around. In front of the building, of the 3 people who acted as their leaders was a very tall woman. A strong aura exuded from her even though she was wearing gold-rimmed glasses. She twisted her neck and fiercely said, "Yezek, C. Lawrence, our men have clearly investigated the Harbo's manpower in China. Except for that old dog William, this Old Wolf is the last one. They both have run here for their last struggles, so I suggest our 3 parties send our men in to kill them right away." Yezek grinned hideously. He stroked his chin and said, "It was quite difficult, but we managed to force William to flee to this place, so we can definitely kill them without anyone noticing. With that Old Wolf fleeing here, it means this place is their designated meeting point. Let's stop procrastinating and strike them. Attack." C. Lawrence also shouted fiercely. In the building, William looked at Cal Solon. Old Wolf brought to him. The looming killing intent was visible in his eyes as he regretted his choice in striking Long Zhengyu and using this damned idiot Cal Solon for the purpose. How could this messed up incident happen if it wasn't because of the incident with the Long family? "William buddy, we gotta find a way to flee this place. The Dandelion, Cupid, and Sava groups sent quite the number of their experts to chase us. We'll just wait for death if we stay here, Old Wolf said. He was a man in his 40s with dark skin and a not-so-tall figure, the type of average-looking and inconspicuous man among the crowd. William took a deep breath and replied, I've never been so sure prior to this, but I can tell now that the three of them are really against us. But there's something I don't get. Why did they join forces all of a sudden to deal with us? Although there were some frictions between me and them, it wasn't enough to make them tear all decorum and fight to the bitter end like this. Besides, there's another thing making me wonder. Do they not want to get the cooperation contract with the magnificent Tang Corporation? Old Wolf's eyes flickered and he replied without being salty or weak. I think it's likely that those three companies have reached some kind of secret agreement with the magnificent Tang Corporation. It's either that or the Star City's Long Group is involved in this farce. But in short, we are now enemies with them either in public or in the dark. William analyzed it for a short while. He felt helpless inwardly, but there were no other better means available for him, so he issued an order. Notify them both that we're retreating. In the passageway where the elevator was designated to be built, a rope was hung to the basement. William and his men grabbed the rope and descended quickly, and the dozen people arrived in the underground parking lot. Let's go. Those bastards will never expect us to flee. Find a way to escape to Star City and leave China as quickly as possible. As long as we return to the US, I can make those bastards pay a painful price. William powerfully raised his fist and shouted with boiling killing intent. But as his voice faded away, a group of figures flickered and approached fast. These tens of shadows quickly appeared at the entrance of the spacious underground parking lot in a few seconds. At the front were Yezek, C.E. Lawrence, and the woman with steaming killing aura, Avril. All of whom stared dagger at William with visible contempt on their faces. Yezek was the first to pace forward and smilingly said, Have you been well, my old buddy, Sir William? William frowned and, with killing intent overflowing in his eyes, he coldly replied, Yezek. You damned dog bastard. I really should have killed you in the US. The smile on Yezek's face disappeared without a trace. He raised his right arm and shouted as he flung it down, Annihilate them. Kill. See, Lawrence and Avril didn't hesitate. Everyone had come to this point and all of them were decisive people when it came to battles. They immediately stormed over towards William and his dozen men. Guns were of no use in this situation, so each and every one of the combatants took out their respective cold weapons and engaged in mortal combat for a while. William himself wanted to flee immediately, but he kept getting pestered by Yezek's group of three. If it wasn't for Old Wolf protecting him at the side after he put down Cal Solent, he would have been killed by these people at the first strike. In a hidden corner about tens of meters away from the scene, Tangan with her usual bronze mask witnessed the unfolding scene with an excited look in her eyes. At the same time, she was holding a video recorder to tape the scene of this fight. Kill them all. William tilted his head up and roared all of a sudden. His suit suddenly blasted out as the muscles all over his body started contracting. In just a few breaths, the size of his figure was enlarged several times and his height now reached about 2 meters high with hairs crazily elongated, from head to toe. You're a werewolf. Yezek, C. Lawrence, and Avril were flabbergasted. Yezek, however, felt an especially deep regret after finding out that William was a werewolf. He swung over his long blade towards Lawrence, whose position was very close to him, and directly slew the man before he kicked Avril afterward. The sudden change was really unexpected. It made all the combatants around stop fighting and look at Yezek with disbelief on their faces. Yezek raised his head up and roared as his body began to transform. In just a few seconds, he also turned into a werewolf. Avril's pupils shrunk and she angrily shouted, These damned werewolves are all members of the Stygian Club. I truly failed to notice that these damned Harbo and Dandelion groups turn out to be industries owned by the Stygian Club. Everyone, kill them. Kill them all. William looked ecstatic. It never crossed his mind that Jezek, who used to have many grudges with him, turned out to be a werewolf just like him, a member of his own race. For a moment, the feeling of climbing back to heaven from hell made him burst out into laughter. Let's kill them all, brothers. Let's kill these Cupid and Sava bastards. Kill. Die. The intense mortal combat ensued yet again in the unbuilt underground parking lot. Jezek's crossover led to serious blows against the Cupid and Sava groups. Further, Lawrence had been killed and the experts from the Cupid company were as though losing their backbone and gradually fell into a disadvantage. A ray flickered in Avril's bloodshot eyes as she watched her men falling in the surroundings, as well as those Cupid people who looked to have the intention of escaping. She suddenly shouted aloud, "Everyone, listen. Whether it's the brothers or sisters from Cupid or Sava, I'll reward whoever kills the enemy. You'll get 100 grand for each man you kill, and I'll top up the reward to $10 million if we can annihilate them completely." As always, many people would transform into brave combatants when such generous rewards were offered. In that instant, everyone from either the Cupid or Sava groups was as though having taken steroids. They blasted out their whole battle potential and doubled their combat power. Some of them straightly stormed over the enemy and roared aloud while killing them. The fortune stimulated their nerves and aroused their spirit to fight and kill again to get more rewards. Chapter 1202, Temporary Conclusion. Both sides suffered tremendous losses in the brutal killing. Still, the members of Cupid and Sava groups were gradually falling into a weak position despite the heavy financial stimulus from Avril. After clearly noticing this situation, Avril immediately issued a retreat order. However, neither William nor Jezek wanted to give up the chance and began to pursue Avril and the rest. The eyes of the seriously injured old wolf with Cal Solon next to him suddenly turned wide as he watched a sword tip pierce his chest. He was hardly able to turn his neck only to see a mysterious female with a bronze mask. This should be enough. A curved arc appeared at the end of Tang An's mouth. Her figure then flickered and vanished afterward. She no longer kept watching the fight of these experts but quickly left at the speed of lightning. The fight today was just the appetizer and a trailer, for the real fun would unfold next. When Tang An returned to Southgate Town and appeared outside the villa's courtyard, her bronze mask-covered face looked a bit annoyed. She really couldn't think of the reason why her Grand Master, Tang Xiu, would arrange such an array here that made her unable to appear before him silently. Kong Xia. The moment she came to the door, she saw Kong Xia sitting on the sofa silently in deep thought. Then, she indifferently asked, "Is Grand Master upstairs?" Kong Xia laughed secretly. Tang An had never been able to silently enter the villa since Tang Xiu arranged the array here. With a slightly tilted mouth after seeing the slight anger in Tang An's eyes, she said, "He's waiting for the news in his study." Humph. Tang An softly snorted and turned toward the stairs. Inside the study room, Tang Xiu looked at Tang An, who just came in, and immediately got up from the sofa, asking, "You got everything recorded?" Tang An gave him the camera and replied, "It's been filmed, but I didn't catch up to capture the final pursuit. You should watch this video, Grand Master. I'm sure you'll find it very interesting." Tang Xiu's expression slightly shifted and he immediately played the video. After a long while, he turned to Tang An with a strange expression and asked, "So the Stygian Club's people are behind Dandelion? But to think that the ones behind the Harbo group are also from the Stygian Club is rather unexpected. That means, Cal Solon's father should be a member, right?" "That should be right." Tang An nodded. "Even if he isn't, he must have a deep connection with the Stygian Club." Tang Xiu took a deep breath and said, "I'm giving you another task," and immediately spread this video out. "Make sure every force who came to Star City receives this video, but keep in mind to do it in secret. Additionally, send this video to the HQs of these 4 companies in the US. They want to play on the stage, so let's fulfill their wish to have some good time to play well with one another to their heart's content. Tang nodded in response. 2 of the top 3 forces in the world are involved. Regardless of the Stygian or Pyramid, these 2 forces are already in full swing in their clash. Even if this issue can't make them tear all the remaining decorum, it's very likely that this will add fuel to the flames. Also, is there anything else you would like me to carry out, Grandmaster? Tang Xiu narrowed his eyes and slowly said, contact MOA's team to deal with the issues in Japan as fast as possible and then head to the US to lurk in various cities there. I think this skirmish between Stygian and Pyramid will end in 2 months, so once their spat ends, Jing will immediately head to the US and start laying out the foundation for our intel network there. I see. Tang nodded. Moa and the rest may have not been engaged in intelligence work before, but they do have their share of experience in intelligence issues as they often had dealings with those intelligence organizations when carrying out their missions in the past. I'm sure they can lay out the foundation so the prototype of the intel network can be formed when Jing catches up there. True. So off you go, then. Tang Xiu waved and watched her leave the study with flickering eyes. The turmoil between these major companies in the US and the battle between these 2 superforces would definitely make the world turbulent. This meant that it would also provide a chance for the Tang sect to fish in troubled waters and reap great benefits. Prior to this, the sect's foundation was really too weak, so he never took any major move. He even had to find ways to avoid the conflict between Tang sect's disciples and all the cultivation forces from various countries that went to the waters of 9 Dragons Island then. But now, even though his sect couldn't be called as powerful, they already had enough capital. If he waited for a few years, he could expect to see the sect's strength to become much stronger when the outstanding cultivation talents of those children army started to stand out. Suddenly, he recalled one thing. It was about Bancho's team. He never asked them about their cultivation even though they had obtained cultivation arts. He then took out his cell phone and dialed Bancho's number. It's me, Bancho. Any instruction for me, boss? Bancho's voice came from the phone. Where are you now? How is the progress with your cultivation? Asked Tang Xiu. Bancho's dry voice replied, we have yet to sense the flow of qi so far, boss. But we're not losing heart and keep trying hard every day, though. Each of us keeps practicing for at least 2 hours daily. That's right. We're now on Jingmen Island. Anyway, it's been a long time since I ordered you to suspend the adoption of street children before. It's time for you to start the operation again, said Tang Xiu. That's great. Bancho was pleasantly surprised and replied, we haven't actually been idle during this time, boss. Not all of our time has been spending time on cultivation either. We often move about around the country since we got 4 teams in total. Also, we found over 100 good children recently, but since you told us to cease adopting them, I only assigned someone to follow and keep watch over them in secret. Good job, said Tang Xiu. There's another thing I want you to do. I need at least 1 person in those 4 teams to be proficient in various languages and someone familiar with some countries abroad. Do you want us to extend our search for street children abroad, boss? Bancho was surprised. That's right. But begin the operation in Asia first. You don't need to recruit many children in each country, just 1,000 is enough. I'm gonna summon everyone right away and get them here to report to you, boss, said Bancho excitedly. Tell them to rush to Star City within 2 days, said Tang Xiu. I'll be waiting for them here. After he hung up and was about to leave the study, he suddenly heard a knock on the door and Hao Lei's voice came outside. Hao Lei is here to report, Sect Master. Come in. Tang Xiu replied. As the door opened, Hao Lei and Kong Xia walked into the room. A faint ambience exuded from the current Hao Lei, which was clearly an aura caused by the internal energy of mid-stage golden core. Not bad. Tang Xiu nodded at her and then took out another interspatial ring from his ring. He then handed it over to Hao Lei. These are the articles to be auctioned. Drop your blood first for ring ownership and have a look at them. Hao Lei nodded and took the ring. Not long after she followed Tang Xiu's order to drop her blood on it, her beautiful face looked dull with disbelief in her eyes. She was truly shocked. She never dreamed that Tang Xiu could provide so many treasures. Not to mention the pieces of jewelry, she could tell in just a glance that these hundreds of antiques and curios were quite valuable treasures. Sell all of these goods in the one-off auction, said Tang Xiu. Additionally, I need you to set up a large auction house. I think the best place for it is in Shanghai. I gave you 1 billion yuan for promotional funds before, and I'll give you 5 billion more to set up this auction house. Hao Lei thought for a moment and slowly replied, we must have an exclusive building that belongs to us if you want to establish an auction house, sect master. I'm not talking about leasing a few floors in some edifice, but a building that is completely ours. The other urgent things also include the auctioneers and fixed staffers, along with security personnel. Security must be the top priority given the value of the objects stored in the auction house. I won't bother dealing with these aspects, so I'm giving you full authority to manage them. Tang Xiu said, also, I'm going to contact Xiao Xue later to ask her to transfer a group of experts from the sect to assist you. Hao Lei hesitated for a moment before nodding. Then, I'll do my best. As dusk came and the red glowing blob dyed the sky red, a cold wind began blowing to every corner of Star City and brought certain footage to the hands of several hundreds of forces. The 10-minute-long video, however, caused a great stir, and these forces kept sending the video around the world through the internet. Beijing, the HQ of the Special Abilities Bureau. Duanmu Lin, who just had dinner, was talking to Zhu Long about the demonic beasts issue in the Himalayas when a thin young man quickly rushed into the room and passed a tablet PC, reporting. Chief, we just received stirring footage from Star City. Star City? Duanmu Lin frowned and, after taking the tablet, asked, where's Tang Xiu? He's in Star City, the young man replied. Duanmu Lin shook his head and forced a wry smile. This brat is truly talented in stirring things up. He always stirs up major events no matter where he goes. Just like the turmoil in Japan some time ago, which was caused by him going there. I suspect that this incident is also one of his crafts. Alas, let's watch the footage first. I hope this brat didn't make a mess excessively. But Chief, the content of the video has nothing to do with Mr. Tang, although I'm sure that he's deeply related to the incident if we dig further, said the young man. Accurately speaking, it's inseparable from his company, the Magnificent Tang Corporation. Chapter 1203, Acting Pretentious. As Duanmu Lin quietly watched the video, a strange expression appeared on his face. There should be 4 forces involved in this footage. I need to know from which forces they are from. The young man handed the documents in his hand to him and said, they are from the American major companies, all of which are in the world's top 50 companies. You also know that the Magnificent Tang Corporation has issued an announcement that they are opening a cooperation deal for the position of their products distributors in various countries around the world, so the representatives of companies from various countries came to Star City. The 4 forces involved in the battle on the footage are all from 4 American companies. Additionally, we've also investigated them and the force behind Dandelion and Harbo should be the Stygian Club. Duanmu Lin read the document and his expression looked grim. He had no idea what Tang Xiu was selling, nor did he know from which source this footage came from. We're going to Star City. It was dusk when Tang Xiu, along with Kong Xia, came to the Magnificent Tang Corporation SHQ and were greeted by tens of media who had been waiting in the company's conference hall before they arrived. Welcome to all friends from the media. It was his first time appearing before the mass media and he straightly looked at the cameras aimed at him by these excited-looking reporters. Then, he began speaking in a deep voice, I'm Tang Xiu, the owner of the Magnificent Tang Corporation. I'm holding this press conference to announce an issue. The three companies, Cupid, Dandelion, and Sava Groups, have openly clashed in Star City and violated the previous announcement my company has issued, so the Magnificent Tang Corporation has decided not to work with these three companies. Mr. Tang, can you tell us how these three companies fought? Why didn't we get any news about it from any media? Asked a reporter hurriedly. I myself am not in a position to elaborate about the details, said Tang Xiu. But what I can tell you is that these three companies have clashed with the Harbo Group and committed murders. I think a public security department will be involved later. But in any case, my Magnificent Tang Corporation has always been a law-abiding company and thus, we decided that we'll never cooperate with these companies since they have disrupted orders in Star City. Shortly afterward, he directly announced the termination of the press conference and directly left to the GM's office upstairs, leaving the rest of the issues to Kong Xia. Ring, ring, ring. His cell phone rang just as he lit a cigarette and took a few puffs. What's the situation? The battle between the four forces has been concluded, Sect Master. All from Harbo Group, but the seriously injured William died, whereas Dandelion suffered heavy losses. But they successfully annihilated the Cupid and Sava groups. Our intel operatives are closely monitoring Yezek and William and they seem to be heading for Magnificent Tang Corporation site. Jing reported. They must be coming here to claim the credits, but they won't expect a virulent and punitive force waiting for them shortly after. Tang Xiu sneered. Anyways, Jing, pick some competent men and send them to the US. Their mission is to lay dormant there and to figure out the next movements of these four companies even if they must buy intel from the Dark Wind. Additionally, I've informed Mo Ah's team to head to the US to start working on the intel network there right after they've settled the issues in Japan. Lastly, I give you 2 months to complete the intel network all over China and make it operate normally before you set off for the US. Understood, replied Jing respectfully. At the junction of Star City and Old City District, 2 cars sped toward the Magnificent Tang Corporation site. Yezek, who had reverted back to his human form, glanced at the seriously injured William, who had fainted at the side with annoyance in his eyes. He just called the HQ and reported what had happened here, only to receive a stream of curses. The reason was simple, fighting with each other. It made him feel wronged since he never knew that Harbo Group was on their side. Not to mention that the friction between the two companies did exist, to begin with. However, his immediate superiors simply ignored everything he said and gave him a death order after hurling those toxic curses. He was commanded to hold on to the Magnificent Tang Corporation tightly and struggle to secure the distribution rights in the U.S. for that company's products regardless of the losses. It ought to be doable, it won't be a problem, right? Yezek recalled his secret talk with Tang Xiu earlier and felt quite relieved. As long as this cooperation talk was successful, he would become a hero after returning. At that time, he would definitely get a reward and maybe could go further and become a leading figure in the company's HQ. Ring, ring. The notification ringtone was heard from the cell phone in his pocket. It was a friend of his who sent a video and added some text below it, causing his expression to enormously change. I really didn't expect you to be a legendary werewolf, Yezek. It seems that your Dandelion company belongs to someone from the Stygian Club, huh? My daughter died in the hands of those Stygian Club bastards. I'll see you crawl and kneel and knock your head before me when you return to the US later. Yezek quickly opened the video attachment, which made his expression change to extreme shock and disbelief. This? What's going on? How could someone hiddenly record the fight? That place was so desolate that not even any worker was seen there. Who was the bravado that took this video secretly? Ring, ring. Another incoming text. Yezek's expression instantly turned pale after watching the new video as strength and reason left his whole being. These 2 texts and videos shocked him to the core, especially the last one, which was the footage of the Magnificent Tang Corporation where Tang Xiu's somber and grim speech was like stabbing his heart. How did this happen? Yezek took a deep breath and immediately dialed Tang Xiu's number. Mr. Tang. Yezek? Tang Xiu replied in a heavy voice, you made me very disappointed and furious. I already warned you before that you must be careful and cautious in your actions, yet your fight was spotted and captured by someone? But the most important thing is, what exactly are you? How did you turn to something like a werewolf in the Western world, huh? You and William are like the werewolves in the movies. Yezek's reply was stuck in his throat after getting bombarded with the inquisitive questioning. Forget it. Tang Xiu sneered again. I don't give a fuck what you are. But what you did was against my wish. You already know that I don't want anyone to propagate any evil deeds in Star City, yet you've exposed yourself and was caught red-handed. You can say that everyone from various countries in the world has received that video now, which makes any chance of cooperation between us impossible. Further, you must explain why you crossed the rest and joined William? He's the mastermind who has injured my friend. Yezek was speechless and at a loss. Don't ever think you can fool me on this issue by pretending to be mute and dumb, Yezek. Tang Xiu went on in a heavy voice, congratulations for ruining my expectation for you after that secret talk. But I want to ask you something. Did you want to play me on purpose? You misunderstood, Mr. Tang. How could I be playing you? Replied Yezek hurriedly. I only realized that the Harbo turned out to have a deep relation with my Dandelion group when fighting. Let's just say that the big bosses of the two companies are members of the same group. Toot, toot, toot. Tang Xiu directly hung up. The feeling of wanting to cry but being unable to shed any tears inundated Yezek's heart the moment he heard the disconnect tone. He knew that it was no longer possible to secure any cooperation between his Dandelion group and Magnificent Tang Corporation, no matter how hard he tried. Further, he could expect to be punished severely after returning since he failed the mission. No. I must see Tang Xiu and explain it to him in person. I must strike the deal regardless of the methods and whatever the cost. Quickly after, he arrived at the Magnificent Tang Corp's site. After obtaining Tang Xiu's consent to meet, he then quickly headed upstairs. The moment he saw Tang Xiu, Yezek hurriedly spoke, please listen to my explanation, Mr. Tang. Tang Xiu sat on the sofa with a cold face. He puffed out a cloud of smoke and said in a very dissatisfied tone, what else can you explain? It was you who proactively came to me and secretly negotiated to teach those Harbo people. I didn't give you my consent firstly, but you looked so eager. I reluctantly agreed to your suggestion since I did have the intention to cooperate with your Dandelion company. Then what did I get in return, huh? It turns out that you and Harbo are on the same side. So tell me, how should I face you now? You keep moving forward and desperately pushing me to your opposite. Are you trying to deal with me or what? Yezek almost cried and desperately shook his head. It's all my fault, Mr. Tang. It's just that I didn't expect William to be one of ours. I never knew that the Harbo and Dandelion turn out to be on the same side either. Else, I never have come to you to gain your approval and tried my best just for naught and paid a huge price like this. All right, I won't argue over your claim that you know nothing about it, said Tang Xiu. But what about that video? Who in the world is behind the scenes and what could be their agenda? Why must they expose it after I and my company have declared that any trouble isn't allowed? Don't you see this farce is aimed to smear my company's reputation? How come this can be that serious? Yezek groaned inwardly and stammered. I have no idea who could be hiding there and secretly took the video, Mr. Tang. But as long as you don't refuse the cooperation offer from my company, I can assure you that I'll find those who shot the video and teach them a hard lesson. Chapter 1204, Fishing in Troubled Waters. Tang Xiu sneered inwardly but intentionally expressed his anger on the surface as he replied to him in a heavy voice. I'll consider it if you can find the one who took the video, Yezek. Exposing the agreement between us and destroying my company's reputation is something I can't accept. Yezek looked ecstatic as he was sure he could find the bastard who took the video. Filming was something that would leave some clues behind, and what were werewolves very good at when facing such a situation? He was sure that his inborn nature as a werewolf in hearing and smelling could yield some unexpected results. Certainly, he didn't make this decision recklessly as he still had another card at hand. That was buying the intel from the fearsomely resourceful Dark Wind organization. He could buy the information from this organization should he fail to find the person who shot the video. A few minutes later, Yezek left the HQ of Magnificent Tang Corporation with satisfaction. He didn't notice that Tang Xiu was sneering at him and watched him leave by the window of the conference room where he had just met him. 10 p.m. Tang Xiu had just returned to Southgate Town when he saw his mother, Su Lingyun, holding hands with Andy, seemingly merrily engaged in a talk about something. While walking toward the villa, they also carried some bags full of stuff as if they had just finished shopping. Honk, honk. Tang Xiu blew the car's horn and stopped the car near the two women, opened the car's door and smilingly said, "I heard you've gone to Beijing, Mom. When did you come back?" A pleasantly surprised expression was cast on Su Lingyun's face when she saw Tang Xiu. She smilingly replied, "I heard that you've returned to Star City, so I hurried back. I just arrived this evening and wanted to call you. But then I bumped into Andy and she said you went to your company and there seemed to be something important you needed to tend to. That's why I didn't call you. Anyhow, Xiu, you should be staying for a longer time in Star City this time, right?"
"Yeah.
"I think I'll stay much longer this time if nothing happens, Mom." Tang Xiu smilingly replied, "Anyways, get in the car, Mom, Andy." "All right." After Su Lingyun and Andy boarded, they quickly headed home. However, just as the mother and son hadn't yet started to chat, a female who was responsible to protect Su Lingyun and assigned to stay in Southgate To entered the living room hurriedly just as they arrived. "What did you say? Duanmu Lin?" Tang Xiu raised his brows with a slightly surprised expression. He did guess that Duanmu Lin would come for him, but he didn't expect he would come so fast. It was just only a few hours after the footage spread out, wasn't it? Could it be that Duanmu Lin was currently in Star City or a city nearby? Immediately after, Tang Xiu personally greeted Duanmu Lin. Seeing that the old man brought 2 God's Nectar bottles, he squeezed out a wry smile and said, "What did you bring the wine for, Senior Duanmu? I may not have many things here, but I can guarantee I have enough God's Nectar for everyone to drink." "I know you got a lot of God's Nectar wine since you're the one who produces it," replied Duanmu Lin smilingly. "But I'm afraid I won't have supper without some wine, you know." Tang Xiu couldn't help laughing in response. Then, he invited Duanmu Lin inside. After his mother and Duanmu Lin exchanged some pleasantries and she went to the kitchen in a hurry, he and Duanmu Lin headed to the study on the 2nd floor. "Tell me, what did you just do, boy?" Duanmu Lin looked at Tang Xiu asked with a faint smile just as he took a seat on the sofa. Tang Xiu rubbed his hands and grinningly replied, "Well, it seems I can never escape your eyes no matter what I do, Senior Duanmu. Nothing worth any concern since there's no major event. My friend, Long Zhengyu, was injured by those people from an American company, Harbo Group. I just pulled some strings in the middle, but I'll save the details on the process. Shortly put, I made them fight. Those Harbo bastards suffered heavy losses and the others ended up bad as well. I'm sure you're also crystal clear about what happened in Star City, aren't you, Senior Duanmu?" "I know some bits of it, but I have no idea what will unfold next," replied Duanmu Lin with a smile. "In any case, it should be the appearance of those werewolves on the video that made you come here, Senior Duanmu." Tang Xiu went on. "I can tell you without reservation in that regard. In actuality, the one behind Harbo and Dandelion groups is none other than the Stygian Club, and the backer behind the other company is the Pyramid. These 2 parties have already had some clashes prior to this and the conflict likely involved 3 parties, so I just added more fuel to the flame to drag these forces into a deeper conflict around the world. Duanmu Lin was shaken inwardly and asked in a deep voice, "What about China? I need to know what will happen here." "Nothing." Tang Xiu shook his head. "What is unfolding here will come to an end." The response made Duanmu Lin immediately feel relaxed. But then he asked again curiously, "You want the Stygian club to fight against the pyramid? What for? Don't you think the fight between these foreign forces and weakening them will bring only good things for our country, Senior Duanmu?" asked Tang Xiu back. "Nothing wrong with it, is it not? I can see neither the advantages nor disadvantages in regard to this issue." "I can only see you pulling the strings in the back, kid," said Duanmu Lin with a faint smile. "You gotta have some purpose in mind. Mind to elaborate some more to satisfy my curiosity?" Tang Xiu thought for a moment and then said, "Senior Duanmu, the Stygian club has been running amok with all kinds of evil deeds for so many years. You also know that they have committed countless incidents that incur hatred from anyone, at least those who have suffered from their persecution. The pyramid is likely not a bit better than them either, given all kinds of practitioners among them. The other thing I have in mind is about cultivation resources where competition between me and these forces will be inevitable. That's why I won't take the active role to strike them but pull the strings to create a dog-eat-dog arena for them to fight. It will be quite fun to get some benefits from it." Duanmu Lin narrowed his eyes and asked, "Tang Xiu, do you have any exact targets in the future?" After hearing the question, Tang Xiu stood straight from the sofa. He cupped his fists toward Duanmu Lin and said, "Senior Duanmu, I can tell that living for 180 years more won't be a problem for you given your strength. I can tell you that my goal is to become an immortal and ascend to the immortal world, which is the ultimate pursuit for any cultivators like me. If some decades later I and the Tang sect disciples have ascended to the immortal world, I'd need your help to take care of my relatives and friends I leave on Earth." Duanmu Lin abruptly got up with disbelief on his face. "Ascending and becoming an immortal? Are you kidding me, Tang Xiu? Even if your cultivation speed is very fast, for you to ascend in just a few decades is simply impossible. Even if you can ascend to the immortal world by yourself, it's just impossible saying that you can take all the cultivators from your Tang sect, no?" "I can achieve that," replied Tang Xiu in a deep voice. Duanmu Lin shivered. He instantly clenched his fists and hurriedly asked, "Tang Xiu, I may not a cultivator, but I think I also have a bit of ability. Since you can take all Tang sect disciples to the immortal world, can you take me there as well?" "Are you sure?" asked Tang Xiu with a strange expression. "I'm sure. Absolutely." Duanmu Lin firmly nodded. "You're the Special Abilities Bureau's director, which makes you an indispensable figure in the country. Can you really let go of whatever you have on Earth, like people and everything else? Also, you must at least reach the spirit formation stage if you want to ascend to the immortal world. Given your current strength, let alone a spirit formation stage expert, I think you're not even a match for a golden core expert, right?" Duanmu Lin's expression stiffened and a bitter expression covered his face immediately. Then, he nodded with a forced smile. "I can leave everything I have on Earth, be it the people or some other secular issues. After all, I'm already very old and, in a few decades, there are not many people and things worth my concern anymore. It is actually the requirement of cultivation level that baffles me." Tang Xiu smilingly nodded. "That's why I suggest you'd better put that idea down. Just do your work well and enjoy your old age." "No. Something is missing." Duanmu Lin abruptly spoke again. "I think there's something incongruent from what you told me, Tang Xiu. As far as I know, there are many of your Tang sect disciples who are still at the foundation establishment stage. They must break through the golden core and nascent soul stages first if they want to reach the spirit formation stage, from their current cultivation level. I believe your cultivation speed is very fast, but there's no way theirs are as fast as yours. In case they can't reach the spirit formation stage, Does that mean they won't be able to follow you to the immortal world? That's the main reason I'm scheming in the dark to make the Stygian and Pyramid fight, Senior Duanmu. Tang Xiu said, another chief reason is that I want to steal their resources. Only with enormous resources as the backing can my people keep breaking through and eventually reaching the spirit formation stage. Of course, those who fail to reach the spirit formation stage by the time I ascend to the immortal world will have to stay behind. Duanmu Lin's eyes shone as Tang Xiu's explanation made him see a light of hope again. He interjected hurriedly, can I also become a cultivator, Tang Xiu? I'll do anything to become one even if I must start from scratch. That's not a problem, of course. Tang Xiu nodded and went on, but you have many years behind you and it will be difficult for you to reach the spirit formation stage. Unless what? Duanmu Lin hurriedly pursued. Unless you can get yourself an enormous number of cultivation resources and completely use the piled-up resources in the process. Tang Xiu explained, however, you'll also face the drawbacks due to that as it would make it nearly impossible for you to break through again. It's the legendary immortal world. Duanmu Lin gritted his teeth and said, I really want to see it. This is something I never dared imagine before, but I believe that you won't deceive me. Hence, I'll still be satisfied even if the highest level I can break through is only up to the spirit formation stage. Besides, I'd still be countless times stronger than the current me. I can teach you a set of cultivation techniques, but you have to give me the assurance that only you will practice it and not pass it on to others, said Tang Xiu. I give you my word on that, replied Duanmu Lin categorically. Tang Xiu slowly nodded. After sitting back on the sofa, he lit up a cigarette, took a few deep puffs and said, all right, we'll discuss the details later and shift to what is happening now. Chapter 1205, Turning Everyone Down. It was late at night when Duanmu Lin left South Gate Town with complex emotions. He needed time to digest what Tang Xiu had told him. He no longer bothered about the incident happened in Star City and, ever since he knew Tang Xiu, he was crystal clear his bottom line in no matter what he did. At the very least, he would never do anything harmful to the country. That was already enough for him. Tang Xiu hurried to the Star City Chinese Medical Hospital the next morning. Long Zhengyu hadn't yet woke up and Tang Xiu examined his condition again to make sure his system functions were gradually recovering, and his injuries didn't worsen. Only after he finished the examination did he finally feel relieved. Shortly afterward, he headed to the magnificent Tang Corporation and issued a series of orders, one of which was to send some people to various countries around the world to investigate the background of the multinational corporations that came to Star City. 3 days later, he contacted Yezek and asked him for the findings of the investigation. The man told him that he hadn't yet found the person who secretly shot the video. Tang Xiu immediately expressed his anger and told Yezek to cease his investigation at once and that he would investigate it by himself. He also told the man directly that the magnificent Tang Corporation would never cooperate with the Dandelion Group. Immediately after, he held a plenary meeting to invite all the head representatives of these various countries' corporations to come to the magnificent Tang Corporation's site. Inside the conference room that was large enough to accommodate thousands of people, the head representatives of all companies sat quietly in the auditorium and waited for Tang Xiu's arrival. Nobody spoke and there was no exchange whatsoever between them. The whole atmosphere was very heavy and quiet. Creak. As the door to the conference room was opened from the outside, 8 sturdy men quickly entered the hall and lined up in 2 rows. Tang Xiu was accompanied by Kong Xia and headed straight to the stage. His eyes coldly swept over the audience before he slowly started his speech. Welcome to the magnificent Tang Corporation, ladies and gentlemen. Clap, clap, clap. The enthusiastic applause burst out and only gradually dissipated when Tang Xiu raised his hand. Tang Xiu continued, I'm perfectly aware of everyone's purpose in coming to China and I'm crystal clear that each and every one of you are optimistic to cooperate with my magnificent Tang Corporation. Prior to this, I was ready to sign a partnership with some of the corporations here because each of these companies does indeed have remarkable capital. However, you must have heard of the recent incidents in Star City as well. My best friend, Long Zhangyu, who's also the Long Group's successor, was seriously injured on his own site. He's still unconscious now. I was very angry when I learned about it, but I had to suppress that anger since the people who hurt him are just like you, or rather, the friends of my company who came here for my company. I also helped to free the assailant who is from Harbo Group and squeezed my time to visit House Long's residence with William from this company. I exhausted myself in the negotiation and favors I have to pay for it, and only then was I barely able to help William free this person. I thought that was the end of this incident. I really did. But what happened next? Just a few days ago, the representatives of 4 companies led a group of martial artists under them and engaged in some mortal combats. 6 dead bodies were even found in a hotel like the Long's dining hall. Now I would like to ask you something here. Even after the magnificent Tang Corporation has issued that announcement, some people still acted in a foolhardy and reckless manner. Do you think the honor of my company is so worthless that you can wantonly make such a huge incident in Star City? Do you think Tang Xiu's words are so worthless that you can turn a deaf ear? The anger in Tang Xiu's eyes looked more intense as he spoke up to this point. He tightly clenched his fist and punched the table powerfully and shouted, "I'm now very furious since the Chinese officials are now trying to pressure us, saying that we must pay attention to the public order and social stability of Star City and to never cooperate with such gangsters, and the likes. Hence, I'm going to solemnly announce my stance to everyone now. The magnificent Tang Corporation will not cooperate with any foreign companies for the time being. Even if you put out a mountain of gold before my eyes, you can expect to receive my rejection." Just as his voice faded away, all the representatives in the conference hall abruptly got up in that instant with disbelief on their faces. Many of them wore indignant expressions. "But we have nothing to do with these incidents, Mr. Tang. You can't just flatly deny us like that. We've always respected the law of your country and made every effort to prepare anything we could, hoping that we can cooperate with the magnificent Tang Corporation. Mr. Tang, those 4 American companies are indeed unreasonable. They took your words as a sideshow and should be punished. I think it's right for your company not to cooperate with them. But we did nothing wrong and even poured all of our energy in order to strike the deal with your company. So please take back your statement and give us a chance. I believe my terms will satisfy you. Please don't act on impulse, Mr. Tang. We're all businessmen and cooperation is what we do to make a fortune together. You just need to ignore those who don't follow the rules and play gangsters like them. Please take back what you just said, Boss Tang. We really came with sincerity and goodwill. Mr. Tang." Many representatives spoke with anticipation on their faces. Tang Xiu quietly listened to them until they finished speaking. Then, he indifferently said, "Then, how can I trust you? Can I still believe any one of you? I'm now under pressure from the country, so I hope you can forgive and understand the circumstances we are in. Hence, the magnificent Tang Corporation will shut its doors for any cooperation with any company for the time being. We need to revise and devise a new plan. So please go back and wait for our decision. Certainly, you can expect that we will select the approved companies among you after we've made the decision. We will send our representative to negotiate for the cooperation with the approved companies later." The meeting quickly ended with all the representatives feeling indignant. But Tang Xiu's reasonings were indisputable, so nobody dared to jump out and confront him despite their discontent. Even these people wisely shut their mouths. Shortly afterward, everyone jointly held a banquet at the Long's dining hall and invited Tang Xiu to attend it. Tang Xiu didn't refuse this time and engaged in some friendly chat and toasts with these representatives, and only didn't mention anything about the cooperation. And thus, these companies' representatives from all over the world led their teams and left, and Star City suddenly turned tranquil for a while. However, these representatives didn't know that immediately after they left, Tang Xiu ordered some people of his company to leave for various countries in secret to conduct investigations on the background of their companies. A series of information was then transmitted continuously for the next month or so, which became the subject of analysis by Tang Xiu, Kong Xia, and the top executives of the magnificent Tang Corporation. The situation in China was tranquil, but thousands of miles away in the United States, the tide of undercurrents was moving in the dark. Whether it was the people of the Harbo, Dandelion, or some others from other companies, as well as the big personages behind them, all of them issued orders to strike their enemies, be it openly or secretly. And thus, the brutal and ruthless battles commenced under the surface. Tang Xiu himself received information in Star City and learned that the Stygian Club and Pyramid were engaged in at least a dozen skirmishes in just a month. Additionally, another variable that Tang Xiu didn't expect was the involvement of the League of Arch-Crusaders in the fray. They even secretly cooperated with the Pyramid people, resulting in heavy losses to the Stygian Club. Start the operation. While staying in Star City, Tang Xiu passed the order to the Tang sect disciples who were laying dormant in the United States. Then, nearly 100 experts of the Tang sect immediately moved to carry out a series of plans after receiving the order. Adding fuel to the flames, framing and making other parties into scapegoats. The ploys may seem despicable, but they did yield extremely outstanding results and eventually caused more severe frictions among the three forces. Even the most serious clash resulted in hundreds of deaths and thousands of injuries. During this period, a message quickly proliferated around the world, even to some small remote countries, that the magnificent Tang Corporation and the Grand Fortune Jewelry had jointly set a grand auction house and would hold an unprecedented huge auction on December 1st in Shanghai. The auction attendance itself was free for anyone and any force, with the only condition that they must prepare liquid cash of at least 9 figures. Shortly after, another news was spread out that the threshold was raised, since there were too many rich people who had a relationship with both companies wanting to attend this unprecedented auction. Thus, the threshold was raised to over 300 million in liquid cash. But for participants and forces who had registered in advance, they were still included in the original 100 million threshold. On November 20th, Tang Xiu returned to Shanghai since the auction would soon be held. He invited some business friends in China in person and exempted them from the threshold along with others invited by him. Even then, most of these people still had net worth at least several billion yuan. Shanghai. Inside the luxury villa in Blue Star Villa complex, Tang Xiu rubbed his temples with some headaches while looking at Andy, who acted like a cute lass. Sitting on the sofa opposite Andy was Mu Wenying, whereas Ouyang Lulu sat on the other side, discontentedly grinning with one of her legs atop the other. Well, you gals can chat. I still got things to tend to. Tang Xiu was really reluctant to stay here. After leaving Blue Star Villa complex at a very fast speed as though he was escaping from something, only then did he finally feel relieved secretly. He believed those 3 queens wouldn't start World War III since they were in his house, so they would at least tolerate each other no matter how noisy their quarrel became. Where I should go? Tang Xiu's face looked a bit dull when he stood at the entrance of Blue Star Villa complex and looked at the coming and going cars on the avenue. Only then did he realize that he had nowhere to go. Ring, ring, ring. The crisp ringtone of his cell phone rang, so he instantly took it out and looked at the caller on the screen. The caller turned out to be Jin Xinkue. "What's up, brother Jin?" asked Tang Xiu directly after he picked up the call. "I called you since I heard you've returned to Shanghai, brother Tang," replied Jin Xinkue with a happy tone. "Anyways, do you have some time so we can drink some cups?"